Hello everyone, Switch 2, it's here. What more is it to say? Then let's just get into it. There's a lot to discuss, a lot to go over. I've got my friends Gavin and SBO here today to go through it with me. I have been looking for a mega thread about the news that happened because I only managed to write down some notes, but we'll go through the notes I have so far, and we're going to also talk about stuff that happened after the direct. Sorry. But I mean, overall, I thought it was an incredible presentation. What did you guys think, especially for the first one?
It certainly gave a lot of hype. Like it's not really one of those presentations where it's like, oh yeah, games, I suppose. It's more like every single bit of information that drops, it's like, oh. They're like layers in a cake.
There was only one bit, I think, where I was actually like, oh, okay, now I get a chance to breathe, and that was like the survival kids game.
That's only because the stream crashed.
Well, this is the thing. I heard everyone say it crashed, but mine didn't. Like,
No,
I never
it did
had a crash on
crash.
mine.
It did crash. Also, I noticed the audio was very desynced.
Mm-hmm.
Right, where were you guys watching it? Was you watching it on YouTube?
I was watching it on YouTube, yeah.
Oh.
I started on YouTube, then went to Twitch, but still no.
Oh, okay, maybe. I don't know what happened with me then, because my stream was fine.
Were you watching the Nintendo UK version?
I think I was, yeah.
Oh,
well, yeah, that had no issues.
Ah, okay, yeah. I was going to say, because like when people were like, oh, they're bringing Final Fantasy VII to it, and I was like, well, yeah, did you not watch the thing? But apparently it was frozen at that point. It was still on Survival Kids, and it was like, Cloud, watch out. It was like, what? Hang on, what?
Yeah.
But yeah, let's just start off with the, the start, which is, Mario Kart World. It looks absolutely amazing.
Hey,
it's been a long time since Mario Kart game, so what's up?
Ben, I exist, you know. You didn't ask me what I thought, did I?
You need to get in fast. I've got to give the news directly to the audience. You got to give your thoughts directly to me.
The Switch 2 presentation was really, really good. Okay, moving on.
Okay, that's good. Okay, I guess a quick rating. What would you guys? Because I saw some people like compare it to the Switch 1 reveal.
No. It was way better than that.
I thought this. Because I think like the Switch 1 reveal had like obviously Mario Odyssey, had Xenoblade 2, but the big game was obviously Breath of the Wild at the start. This one was like not only did you have some really good first party titles, you also had a lot of third party stuff coming, which is exciting. And the console itself I think is like genuinely really quite exciting. So I think overall I'll probably give it a solid 9 out of 10.
You were talking about the presentation of the first Switch. I think one thing that made this one stand a bit more in regards to the other one is that when the first Switch got announced, it was like nobody was quite sure what the deal was with the portable thing. But now we know it's a tried and true formula, so we just focus on the good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. They made it very clear that the Switch 2 is, well, the Switch 2, you know, it's more powerful, it's more grown up in a way, you know. It is the new generation of Switch, and hopefully that won't confuse people.
It's funny because like, this is the first time they've gone for like power in a while. Like it's just straight up power over what they had before.
It's definitely refreshing.
Yeah, it is. And I think it might be weird because I've weirdly never really been that excited for new hardware. With this one, I am. I mean, from the screenshots we've had, I'm not excited to like see the UI and stuff. That seems exactly the same. But like, just in terms of like performance and stuff, and I mean, to be honest, I don't think Mario Kart really showcased like what it can do.
Not at all.
Well, we'll get to that, but when you think about it, it kind of does because everything exists on one map. You can, you know, it's an open world Mario Kart game. You couldn't do that on Switch 1, couldn't you?
Well, I mean, Breath of the Wild exists. It must be like a fake whole map. Obviously, it's not processing or rendering the entire opposite end of the map. It's probably just the racetrack you're on.
But the big difference is Breath of the Wild only ran at 30. Mario Kart World will run at 60 minimum.
Yeah, well, minimum, yeah.
You could not do that on Switch 1.
It reminds me a bit of some people might not know in the chat, but it reminds me a bit of Lego Racers 2 because that game had like an adventure mode, and you went around and talked to like different folks and stuff. And you did little side quests, but all the courses are essentially like just parts of the world that you drove around in. I don't think it's gonna be like I don't think there's gonna have an adventure mode like that or anything like that. But the fact that you've got free roam and you can just go wherever you want and stuff. I think it sort of does remind me of that a little bit.
Yeah, a bit, maybe also a bit like Simpsons Hit and Run, because like the racing happens in the actual streets of Springfield. But I guess you
don't get
the same for
transported
any
to a
open
different
world
course,
game.
do you?
No, not at all. I guess you could say the same for like GTA and stuff.
Yeah, they keep
Yeah,
it like they design the world and then they just make the whole game within it. They don't transport you anywhere else.
Yeah, although I think in the case for this game, I think it was the opposite. They designed the racetracks and then tried to design the whole open world aspect on top, which might have been a good call.
Yeah,
The game just feels like racetrack centric, so good races. But then on top of that, you get a small cherry, which is to just explore at your heart's content.
I mean, we're talking about this before we started recording for the direct, but there has been some new news like sort of dropped, and there's going to be like a shit ton of playable characters. We obviously saw in the trailer that there was the Moo Moo Meadows cow. Like once that happened, I was like, okay, everyone is truly here.
I jokingly call this game Super Mario Kart Ultimate.
Yeah.
The character selection is absolutely ridiculous. You haven't just got the whatever you said, I don't remember, but you
the
got
Moo Meadows cow.
Yeah, the cow, but you also got a dolphin. You've got like just random enemies from throughout the series.
Yeah.
There's a Pianta, which that's a cool choice though. But you also have
awesome.
But you also have a sidestepper from the Mario Bros. Arcade game, and also the Conk Door from Super Mario 3D World. This is bonkers. This roster is bonkers, and it's only going to get weirder, I think, as more characters are revealed.
Yeah, I mean, like when you first look at the screenshot of the character select screen, it looks like there isn't that many. But then, just off to the right, there's the R button, which says like, it's got an arrow, and it's like, oh, okay. So I think there's like 4 more pages of characters or something. Which it does actually address one of the criticisms of Mario Kart 8, which was, it's fairly weak roster.
What's wrong with the Koopa? I will never understand the hatred for the Koopalings. This was the very first time they became playable. A lot of people were happy about that.
I think the problem is that, I think it was compared to like Mario Kart Wii's roster, there was just a bit more variety, because it kind of reminds me of, it reminds me of like when Dragon Ball Fighters came out, and like honestly, like half the cast was just variations of Goku, so it just wasn't very interesting. And I guess that's like, well, how many Koopalings are there? 7 or 8?
There's 7 of them, but they all have distinct designs and personalities.
They do, but I guess like I don't know. I feel like they could have done what they did with like the Shy Guy and the Yoshi colors. Like you could have selected one and then just picked which one you want from like a sub menu instead of them taking up 7 character slots on the main menu.
Yeah, but they're all different weight classes.
Oh, that is true. Yeah, yeah. I think this time we learned as well that they're getting rid of the like the customizable carts. So you don't have like 3 different a body, wheels, and a glider that you can choose. It's gone back to single carts.
I guess they're just trying to like simplify it more while
I will
finding other aspects.
There was bikes still, there wasn't there?
I think so. Yeah, the dolphin was riding a bike. Like I'm actually seeing it on the Mario Wiki right now. I was actually really wondering where they were going to take Mario Kart after 8, because where do you go from anti-gravity? It turns out, just do an open world game, like everyone's doing. I can't believe Mario Kart went open world, and it actually might work very well.
It kind of reminds me of like... Well, do you remember in Double Dash, you'd have certain courses you could see from other courses? So like in Peach Beach, you could see Daisy Cruiser. Like that kind of concept... I don't know if they took it from that sort of concept, but I have seen that apparently Peach Beach is in the game, so that's gonna be pretty cool. Because I did think that if they're bringing retro courses back, which I don't know how you guys feel about this, but when they showed like the courses, it seemed like they just sort of jumbled in retro courses and new courses together, and I don't know if I like that.
Yeah, it's a bit strange. I'm looking at the Mario Wiki right now, so we have so you have Shy Guy Bazaar and Wario Stadium and Desert Hills and Airship Fortress, all as part of the Flower Cup. Those are all returning tracks. Desert Hills might... I don't know about Desert Hills. Is that the Mario Kart DS track? But the other 3... And also, Wario Stadium, is that like the N64 Wario Stadium?
We have had the DS one like twice remade, I think.
It is a very good track, to be fair.
Yeah,
Mario Kart DS has just top-tier tracks.
Yeah, that's why I was excited to see Airship Fortress. But it's weird though, like Airship Fortress, how on earth are you going to get to that from, Peach Beach?
Well, it's like two themes in one because it's a castle and the airship fortress itself. So I guess
Okay,
you
you'll
just
probably go
drive
through
up
like
to
a
the castle
Bowser's
and the
Castle.
airship's there.
Yeah,
Something like that, yeah.
Honestly, that is going to be very, very cool. I don't necessarily like open world, but I think like done correctly, this could be really good. The only thing that I think is like, because I think I put down in my notes like bigger isn't always better, and I also thought like, okay, if you can drive anywhere, I hope that there's something that like keeps racers close enough together that they will still interact. If you know what I mean, because like if people can just go anywhere, you could very easily have even though there's 24 people racing, you could very easily have these 24 characters like in different corners of the map, and it could be too big so that they wouldn't really interact with each other.
Hang
There's
on,
probably a way to keep
I
track
don't
of
quite
other
think that's how
players.
it's going to work. I still think that it's going to be course based. Like, you're still going to have to drive laps on a specific spot.
I think that because obviously that like I think a lot of the tracks have obviously got like a race course and stuff, and it's like you can just drive anywhere if you want to, sort of thing. So I don't think I think that there will be like an optimal route which people will want to take. I don't know. I just thought like if they're going to make this so big and like really let the leash off you, I'm hoping that there's some sort of game design thing that keeps you close enough together that you're still going to interact with people.
No, I think racing is still going to be in racetracks, closed. You can probably still have a bit more, let's say, leeway in movement compared to before. Where, like, if you touch even one pixel of grass, Lucky Dude's going to pick you up. From the looks of it, it's not going to be the case here. But it's not like you're just going to, drive off course and skip half the lap, or even go to a different track entirely. You're still going to have to race.
I reckon they took a look at Sun Insult's ultra shortcut videos and was like, okay, right, we're getting rid of all that.
Until they inevitably do it again. I just cannot understand why Nintendo cannot do a checkpoint system properly.
Yeah, I was going to say, like,
for well another day.
They will break the game again.
All right, just to maybe wrap up this game real quick. There's a lot to talk about the characters and the open world, quote-unquote, aspect about it. But one thing I don't see a lot of people talk about is just mid-game, the power-ups seem weird. I'm not just talking about, hey, we have Hammer Brothers and throwing hammers. Like, that's funny.
Are you talking about randomly changing costumes?
No, there's like
that?
there was the randomly changing costumes, which we'll talk about in a minute. But there was Hammer Brothers who was throwing hammers, and then there was also Toadette who was continuously hitting a question mark block and getting coins from it.
Yeah, like Mario Party.
Yeah, a bit. Yeah, I didn't know because when I saw the Hammer Brother throwing hammers, I thought, are they bringing back unique items? But then I thought, hang on, unique items for 84 playable characters. That's a bit bonkers.
Yeah, I can't. They probably just chose those characters to be funny on the trailer.
They might do it a bit like I don't think they did it in Double Dash because King Boo and Petey got like everyone's unique, but they might do it where like certain characters are more likely to get a certain power up. Maybe I'm not too sure. But I did want to just quickly say as well that I didn't see any battle mode. I don't know if you guys did.
No,
I don't know. I didn't see it. There's going to be a Mario Kart themed direct in like 2 weeks' time. They might tell something then.
Yeah. And also,
it was already a very loaded presentation anyway. So yeah.
Well, I wanted to just quickly get your presentation, your opinion on the costumes because they're really cool. But I've got Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled glasses here, and I just think that's very easily monetizable.
It gives me very, very big Mario Kart Tour vibes.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
Yeah, that.
I just wondering what it means. Like, what effect does it have on the gameplay, if any at all? Is it just like a fun thing you can do, like mid race, just randomly change your costume? It looks like you have to like eat food to change your clothing.
Well, it kind of
does it actually affect the gameplay?
Well, when they ate the burger, I thought like it kind of looked like a Wonder Flower effect almost, and then they changed costume, and I was like, okay, I don't think that's what it is.
Yeah.
But I'm interested to see where it goes. I'm wondering. I'm hoping it's not like monetized, especially because of the price, which we'll obviously go into later. But
I don't think it will be.
What? Maybe I can't see Nintendo do that, but other companies would do like you can unlock all the costumes, but if you want to pay, you get all of them free. Not free, but obviously for paid.
It's like you want to unlock them straight away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so one other thing I saw about the costume thing or rather not quite, but around the same ballpark, was sometimes a character has a question mark on top of them. I think that might just be because it
Oh,
just collected a question mark item box, but it's a bit weird after they collected it. Also, to show the question mark.
yeah,
Might
I don't
still
know if
be
I
a little
like that because I think like it was part of the strategy before, where, for example, if you had like a green shell or something, you could choose to not drag it behind you to make. Well, no, actually, no, because you could see the person holding the shell, couldn't you? So I
Mhm.
don't know. Yeah, that was a bit strange. I didn't actually notice that. So
Yeah, I really don't know what to make of that. I
hmm,
just don't even know in what situations it would apply or what it's doing.
yeah,
But I guess all in all, what's really exciting about this game is that heck, we're talking about it right now. There's just so many unknowns. Like Mario
yeah,
Kart is the finished formula. It's just drive funny, hit item is funny, and now we've got all these questions. Like this is as excited as I've been for Mario Kart in ages.
yeah. I was gonna say. I mean, well, for starters, you skipped out on Deluxe, right, SPO? So it's been a
I
long
did, yeah.
time since you played a yeah. So it's been a long time since you played a new Mario Kart game. But even beyond that, I think like if you think about when Mario Kart 8 was announced, we obviously had like the beautiful graphics and stuff and the anti-grav mechanic, which was really exciting. But this game has come out and just shown you like a million different characters, costumes, different ways to
Yeah.
interact with the terrain, like jumping off walls and rail grinding. Um, yeah, it just seems like there's so much. Obviously, we didn't even talk about like it stealing stuff from Penny Racers and Sonic Transformed with its transforming vehicles.
Yeah.
There's
rail grinding, and like driving on the wall. They're just borrowing from 3D Sonic now, aren't they?
it's honestly it's
Yeah.
just parkour.
It's
It's
all circle.
incredible. Um,
Mario Parkour Kart.
I think
Maybe
we're doing it.
one other thing that I hope they're doing, and maybe it seems like they will, is how at the start of each race, like the drivers are already racing. It seems like there's some sort of placement minigame going on. Gavin knows
It's
what I
Dr.
mean with
Robotnik's
ring
Ring
racing.
Racers.
Yeah, I can see
Well,
a
they
lot
actually
of
borrowed that from
Dr.
Sonic
Robotnik's in
Riders.
it.
I
Well, yeah,
wonder if
of course.
that. I wonder if that's like. I don't know. Maybe that might be like the second race of the Grand Prix or something, where they drove to it,
Yeah, yeah.
and then like if it was the
I think
first
that's the
race,
case.
yeah, if it was the first
That should
race, I
make
think they would have stood still. But
that should
Yeah,
make
just to
sense.
finish
Yeah.
my train of thought, what I meant to go with that is that maybe they're tweaking the formula for balance a bit, in the sense that the placement is always like, oh, if you landed first the previous race, now you're in first in the next race. But with the characters already driving, maybe there's going to be a bit of interaction even in the placement part of the
I
race.
imagine
So
so.
yeah, maybe they're really trying to go deep and tweak all sorts of things to stop like the top player from bulldozing everyone and the bottom
Mm,
players from just being little Timmies. They might
mm,
be. I think they're just being bold now and messing with stuff, which gets me really excited because
yeah,
the
I think
formula needs some shaking up.
Yeah, if there's one thing I really do like about modern Nintendo, it's that they're willing to step out of their comfort zone and actually
Yeah,
really try to push for innovation and experimentation with their really old long running franchises. Like we saw that a
yeah,
lot during the Switch era, didn't we?
yeah. I think that's one of the things that I get excited for with Nintendo these days is they don't really tend to do like generic like sequels to their games, especially on the Switch. Some franchises do; they stick it pretty safe, but a lot of them have, like you said, been quite creative and experimental. And I think
Mhm.
it's nice seeing that because it's like they have to do something from a game design perspective instead of it just being like, oh, we've got a new motion control, so we have to do something new with the game that fits that new control gimmick. It's like no, it's like you're just doing something new with the game's formula, which is nice.
Yeah. On the flip side, that mentality is also what stopped us from having an F-Zero game for ages, and we still don't have one.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
we
true.
just don't know how to innovate.
Yeah,
Don't then.
Just try. Look, I can do it right now. Make it more, have some like vehicular combat elements in F-Zero. There, done. There's your
Yeah.
innovation.
I like to think
That's
that F-Zero 99 was like a testing ground for a
yeah,
future F-Zero game, maybe.
And
here's
there's
hoping.
another thing that we'll discuss later that gives me some hope for F-Zero on Switch
Yeah,
2.
let's move on to the next thing, which was
Mhm.
it was the C button, right? Like it was finally telling us what
Sure.
that's all about.
The C button stands for copyright.
Yeah, I did like
That's good.
that. Oh, I don't know if you told you, SPA, but when me, Gavin, and Tom watched the Tetris film, there's a bit in it where
I saw the
SPO was there when we saw it.
Oh, you was there, weren't you? Sorry, I remember now. Yeah, actually, it might have been you that were there, not Tom. But I remember us being there, and like at one point, they're all like Nintendo are panicking, figuring out what to do, and this woman is like in a corporate suit, just like, "Oh, we can send a cease and desist," and we all went, "Way!" But it does stand for I think it stands for communication because it's essentially putting. I actually thought they were on Discord at first.
Yeah,
I thought like, oh, you can link to Discord now.
That's never going to happen with nope. Nintendo has to do it their own way.
Well, I think
Nintendo had like a Twitch app on the Switch.
Yeah.
It didn't last long.
Well, I think after the whole Twitter thing, they've sort of gone. Yeah, we should have stuck with Miiverse because obviously Twitter's gone to pot, so they've removed support from it from the Switch. So with Switch 2, I think they just thought, well, yeah, we'll just do it ourselves. And in my notes here, I just said like it's really cool, and the fact that you can just hang out with each other even if you're not playing the same game. It's just like hanging out on Discord, but it's built into the console. And I think I said I put something down like this would have been absolutely amazing when I was younger or when we were younger. And all we did was like hang out online and play games and that. Obviously now it'll be a bit more difficult to do because we'd actually have to plan to do it. But when we was just online every night, it would just been easy to just flick on and play with each other. But I think my main thing is that I'm glad they've done this because I think that it's something that's caught up with other consoles and it's like convenient. But I can see the screen sharing. I feel like that's something that at the start might not be too bad, but I think later on will probably start affecting games' performance as the system is pushed a bit more.
I reckon it might be something like the gameplay recording feature, where you hold the screenshot button and it saves the video the last 30 seconds. If the game realizes that it won't be able to play with that, it just disables it, like Smash.
Okay, yeah, that's true. I mean, I hope they have that just built in for every game this time, instead of being very selective with it.
So one cool thing that's going to come out of that is something like we all start playing a new game, like Mario Kart, and we're all just doing our own things, but at a moment's notice, we can just share like the screen with each other. Like, oh, I found this secret thing. No, you didn't. Yes, I did. And like, share.
Instead of like fun. Because there were nights when we were just like playing games and stuff, and that would be playing different stuff, or you guys would be playing something, and I'd be playing something different. And then like SBO said, if I want to share my screen and just be like, oh yeah, what do I check this out or check this funny thing out, or what do I do here? It's like it's so easy.
Oh, also
it's one really cool thing.
So go on, Kevin.
It's a really cool feature, but shouldn't we address the massive elephant in the room in regards to that?
What's that?
The fact that it runs like
the frame rate is like 10 FPS.
Oh yeah. This is why I thought
we were just praising the Switch 2 for actually being fairly powerful, and then they do this crap.
It is powerful for the games. There's not enough RAM to go for the shitty Discord webcam feature.
But then again, we are relying on Nintendo's internet service for it, aren't we? That's probably why it's so bad.
This is one of the things I thought about because I was like, okay, if this is supposed to be like a cornerstone of their system, it's like online communication, surely they should have better online this time. Right?
And the camera, so the camera is basically a combination of the iToy and the Kinect.
Yeah. It was quite funny going backwards. I said when they showed people the guy talking into the microphone, I was like, oh my god, We Speak, it's back.
It definitely reminded me of We Speak. Why can't you just have a dedicated headset? Like you've even got the headphone jack on the Pro controller. Make use of that.
You can.
I'm sure that they'll release like maybe a headphone later on, like probably.
Oh, they definitely will.
£50, imagine.
Yeah, this is definitely one of those things where you can and should use your own headset, but Nintendo's going to make their own, which changes nothing except it has a Nintendo branding, and they're going to charge a lot for it. So back to the screen sharing thing. One of the things that instantly popped into my mind was actually Portal 2, because sometimes in Portal 2, when you're playing co-op, you're on one side of the puzzle, somebody else is on another side, and they're like, dude, you got to shoot a portal into this surface. What surface? I'm not seeing anything. Just look at my screen. And there's a small button to show their screen in a small little window.
It's so much easier to show
where I'm pointing. Yeah. Well, I think that might be, that sort of stuff might be cool for games you're playing at the same time, but when you really need to see another person's perspective, that button's going to be there as a lifesaver.
Well, something I hope that happens is like how you invite people onto that call. I hope there's like some sort of messaging system or something, because as much as I could just message you guys on Discord or something
Probably
to
like
join
an
me in the
invite
call.
feature.
No.
Yeah, just like an invite or something, or like I'll send an invite with a message. I don't want to be playing like Xenoblade or something, and they come up saying, Gavin wants to call you, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Out of nowhere.
Gavin wants you to share your screen. No, Gavin, not now. It's in a
Gavin
spicy cutscene in Xenoblade.
Yeah,
The
Gavin wants
curtains
you
are
to share your
nude.
screen and your camera.
Hey Ben, look at this, Ben.
It was so
Why are you
funny.
playing
Someone put
Xenoblade
something
again?
like the Switch camera they showed off with some of the Switch 2 edition games, which we'll talk about in a minute. But the Mario Party one looks really cool. But someone said like, yeah, and I'm not playing with that. I'm not, someone that's not getting a star, but then giving me a goatsy or something, like stealing a star again, which would be pretty funny to be fair. But what the only thing I have down here on my notes is I do like the camera idea. I think that's pretty cool, but I also think that I think it sucks that you have to pay for the camera and then you have to continuously pay for NSO to make use of it.
Well, it relies on online connection.
Yeah, that's fine, but like the camera can't be used for anything else as far as we know. So it's like, oh, I'm gonna buy this 50 quid camera, but then I have to continue paying NSO to make use of this 50 quid camera.
Also, it's going to be very likely that you can only do it with friends. It's not like Nintendo wants to make the new what was it called, Omegle?
Yeah. So, well, someone
100%.
said I was actually watching the direct, and there was someone a friend from work who was also watching it, and I was messaging her about it, and she said like, "Oh no, I'm not doing that. The strangers will be really weird." And I was like, "It's Nintendo. They're not going to let you do it with strangers."
Yeah. Don't worry about that.
And she was like, "Yeah, but friends are even weirder." And I was like, "Well, you're not wrong."
You can either have a stranger ask you to show them your bussy, or you can have a friend ask you to show them your bussy.
I know
Pick
what
your
I'd rather have.
poison.
But no, I think it's cool. It's a cool idea. I think overall, I just thought like this probably won't be something that I do make use of that much, but I mean, it is cool that it's there.
Yeah, when we do find a use for it, it's going to be really fun.
I bet
it's going to bring us a bit to
especially
like
cool.
Yeah, I think it's going to bring us to a bit of our childhood where we're just playing with the hottest new toy. Like, oh look, I can share my screen, and like I'm hanging out with friends, and the technology is funny, and it's going to be a good time when we actually use it.
I think it will sort of bring us back to like.
State.
I think it'll bring us back to like being, like I said before, like we just come home from school or what have you, and just log on, and then we just chat up to shite and play games together. So
I wasn't going to buy the camera, but now you've convinced me.
You can use any old camera though.
To go.
I imagine, to be honest, I can see like third parties jumping in on that. So maybe like the camera
no
won't be.
Need even like specifically it does work with any camera. Well, any probably
USB-C.
good enough, but yeah, that too. Because there is a setting in the operating system to be like, test this USB camera. They specifically said in like the website, you can use any camera as long as the testing screen tells you it works.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, no need to buy 50 pounds worth of cameras.
I'm sorry, I'm already like spending my life savings anyway.
Yeah.
But I guess the last thing we can say from that is I don't think this was like related to Game Chat as they're calling it. It's just got like a similar name, but it's Game Share, and it's essentially DS Download Play. They're bringing that back,
really cool.
Which is really cool.
Yeah, I can't wait.
So I think I made avid use of DS Download Play with Mario Kart DS with some kids in my neighborhood when I was younger. I think it was, I didn't actually have the game at the time. It was one of the kids' houses that we went round to. He had Mario Kart DS, and we'd always ask him to play out. We didn't really like him, but we'd ask him to play out specifically so he'd play Mario Kart, so we could all play.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, the fact that you can, I don't think you can do it on Switch 1, but you can share it from Switch 2 to Switch 1s. So that's pretty cool. You don't have to have Switch 2 to make use of it.
Are you sure about that? That doesn't sound particularly right.
Just from the graphic they showed it going from Switch 2 to Switch 2 and then to Switch 1 and Switch Lite, but they didn't show it vice versa. So I don't know if you can make.
Okay.
I don't know if you could share it with a Switch 2 if you had a Switch 1, for example.
Guess we'll have to see.
Mm-hmm. Now, hang on, was this the end of my notes? Oh no. So the next up was the specs.
Oh, those are some
Right.
good specs.
Mm-hmm.
So where do we even begin?
Actually, sorry, let's go back a bit. It's similar to the game share thing, but should we talk about the game cards? That weird thing about how, you have a card and it's a virtual card and you can play
the
on a
virtual
different
game
system.
card.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
didn't
that
even
was like
understand half of
that's
that.
more of like a permanent loan. Like game share will be for like multiplayer games, so you can like so like a Mario Kart or what have you. You can share Mario Kart with people who don't have it, and then they can like temporarily play multiplayer with you. The virtual game card is going to be like me saying, "Oh, see you later, SPO. I'm gonna transfer you my copy of Mario Kart so you can play, and then it'll come back to me after like 14 days or what have you."
Okay. Didn't know that.
So
That sounds promising.
yeah. It's pretty cool. It's weird because it's cool because it allows people to more readily share their digital games, but it still comes with like a lot of restrictions, which is not the case
Yeah.
with a physical game.
Alrighty.
But speaking of physical, let's talk about physical handheld specs. So first off, we've got the bigger screen. As someone who I have not really played a huge amount of handheld of the Switch in my life, but over the past year in my lifestyle changing, I do play a lot more handheld now, and I was very much eyeing up the OLED Switch earlier in the year. I wanted to wait just for the Switch 2, and I'm very glad that I did because not only is the screen much bigger, it is LCD, which I know some people might be disappointed by. I haven't been spoilt by an OLED, so I'm not too fussed about that. But the fact that we get, 1080p, which is all I could ask for.
Yep, the screen is 1080p. It's going to be compatible with HDR. Yeah.
And the frame
pretty
rate's
advanced, all
pretty
things
high,
considered.
Right? Yeah, but
not only
the
that,
built-in
but
screen isn't even going to be the main gimmick here because even the built-in screen only has limitation of 1080 60. If you really want to get the big horsepower, the 120 FPS or the 4K, you're really going to have to get a different monitor.
yeah.
So it's good that on the go you have a better experience, but in terms of the specs of raising the, I don't even know what you'd say, raising the
resolution and fidelity.
No, sorry, I just mean in general, raising the experience. That has to be for an external monitor.
Yeah, I think like I think that's one of the reasons why because people were saying like how on earth is the Switch doing this when like the PS5 isn't even consistently doing it, and I don't think it's a fault of the systems really. I think like you said, it's a fault of you need compatible equipment.
The fact that the new dock actually has a built-in fan really shows how much of a beast this thing is.
Yeah, I also think that might be like that could be a hardware revision as well because I think did you hear about Switch's heat warping earlier in the generation?
Yeah, that was scary.
So I reckon that might possibly be one of the reasons why. I actually think that my girlfriend's Switch is sort of heat warped because when I put my Switch in her dock, it slots right in. When I put hers in or take it out, I can feel like almost a resistance, and I'm like, that doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
So I'm not too sure. It doesn't look too bad or anything like that, but there's resistance. It doesn't feel like there should be. So
I think no idea how I avoided that.
Me too, because mine nearly permanently
Switch
stayed in the dock. Yeah, me too. Well, I got the Switch like 2 months after release, I think. But I mean the fact that they showed off the fact, I think they said it can be up to 120 FPS. I think the biggest thing that I wanted from the Switch 2 was just consistent 60 FPS. That's all I wanted, and it sounds like we're going to get that. So
maybe, yeah.
I'm happy.
Until you get the next Pokemon game, which has 2 more trees in the background than the previous games, and whoops, sorry, we have to do 30 FPS, even on the Switch 2. Sorry.
It's like, you could pick 2 modes. You could pick between N64 tree or GameCube tree.
Yeah, I do think overall, though. Sorry.
Go on, Gavin. No, it's fine.
No, I do think overall they actually really, really went out of their way to actually make sure this Switch was better than the old one. Like you got the Joy-Cons attaching magnetically, which I think is a great improvement. The Joy-Cons themselves look a lot better.
The sticks are bigger.
Just everything about it. Yeah, that was one of my main complaints about the Joy-Cons were they're so freaking tiny for my big hands.
And the buttons on the back, like I think, was it you, Gavin, who said, "Oh my god, they're actually usable"?
Yeah. Was it me?
I think it was you who said like the SR and SL buttons. Oh my god, they're finally usable. It was one of you anyway.
Oh
But,
yeah, well, yeah, I agree though. Also, the SL and SR buttons are made of metal. That's how the magnets work, which is actually really clever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought
That's
it was
also how
going to
you
be like
start your table.
Well, it's weird because I don't. It's gonna be weird to see how like it works as a mouse because I did think that I was like, well, I don't want to damage the console, but if it's gonna be like magnetic or metal or what have you, I don't know. It's like I don't want it to scratch the paint, but I mean, I'm not using it on gravel, so
there is so much potential for the optical mouse sensors. Like we've seen with Metro Prime 4, how it simulates a mouse for aiming.
yeah,
I can
that's
see
gonna be
this
cool.
thing like simulating like touchscreens in a way, kind of. Like
It's gonna be. It's going to be weird because I thought like with the mouse control specifically for like first person shooters for like Metroid, I thought like okay, moving around to see and aim is not going to be the bit that we're going to have to get used to. It's going to be like pressing buttons on the mouse. Do you know what I mean? Because it's not like you're clicking because you know where you'd usually put your hand. You've got your hand on the side. The buttons are on the side that you're going to press. So
it's not going to be ergonomic whatsoever.
yeah, I mean to be honest, it could be more because there's a person I know at work who's got like a special mouse, and because she struggles with a normal one, it's like custom made. So her hand is actually on like turns to the side, and she has her buttons on the side.
Yeah.
I find it fucking weird, but
did I not share my saga with you guys about that?
I don't think so.
Using my company's credit, I tried to buy a few vertical mice, precisely because it's a bit more ergonomic.
Oh, okay.
And I just kept trying and taking them back and trying and taking them back, either because the scroll wheel sucks or they have some sort of out of sleep timeout or they're just not good for my hands. I went over like 15 mice. My company was getting real tired of me. I was getting real tired of doing this. And yeah, it was a whole shebang.
Okay, it takes up a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't know. There might. I mean, we got a couple of like showcased games for the mouse control, which we can go into in a minute. But yeah, I mean, it's cool. It's a cool idea. I think that I probably will make use of it. But obviously, it's something that if you primarily play in handheld, you probably won't make much use of. Although there is better ways now to display your Switch on tabletop mode. There's an adjustable stand.
Yeah.
Weirdly enough, I do think that. I mean, I don't know how you guys feel about this, but I think the stand looks worse than the OLED stand.
I don't really care what it looks like. To be honest,
as long as it works.
Yeah.
I think
that's what I was getting at. It's like I thought it was going to be a bit flimsier than the OLED stand, but I mean the OLED stand isn't adjustable, is it? So
no.
What I do like is how you can tilt it so far back. It's essentially the same as just putting it on the table. Thank you, Nintendo. Very useful.
You need that like 13 degrees of elevation.
Yeah.
And this is the bit where my notes end. After the specs, I've got no clue. So if any of you guys like remember what actually happened, then you know feel free to jump in. But I feel like this is got our first sizzle reel of was it third party games?
Yeah, I remember Cyberpunk 2077, which I'm honestly shocked is going to be on Switch too. Wasn't that game like absolutely reviled when it first came out?
Yeah, but this is what I mean. Like, okay, so Witcher 3 came out on Switch as a complete edition with all the DLC. It came all in the cart. It was brilliant, and it was great because this I think it came out 3 or 4 years after the game came out, and the game had been like completely patched up, so it ran great. You know, it was even compared to other systems, it was a great port. There was very few glitches and stuff like that. It's the same with Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk has been like pretty much all patched up now from when it first released, and it's great now. It's a complete edition. It comes with all the DLC, and it also comes with I think it comes all on the cartridge because CD Projekt Red are great at that. But they have confirmed it's coming all on the cart without any extra download. So it comes out day one. So I'll definitely pick that one up. That's one of my most hyped ones, I think.
Point.
But the first one we got shown was probably the biggest one, which I think people would be like, "Oh, okay, so this is quite powerful," and that's for Elden Ring.
Yeah.
Which it's from Software, right?
Yeah, it is.
It is.
Yeah.
I had the Discord window open when that came out, but I saw from the corner of my eye, and it looked like the textures were garbage.
Oh, really?
Did I see wrong? I thought so. It looked like a Nintendo 64 game.
Okay, no, I didn't. I don't think I saw that. I think from my point of view, it looked pretty good.
Must have been just me then.
Yeah, I mean, it probably does look worse than how it does on like PS5 and Xbox. But I mean, this is the thing. I don't want the Switch 2 to be that far behind them, because the problem with the Switch was, 4 years in, it was like, oh, Jesus Christ, we need an upgrade here because this thing weak. So I don't want the Switch 2 to be that far behind the competition for multiplats, because I put this on Twitter, but I think one of the things that made the Switch so amazing was the third-party support. And if you don't take notice of the third-party support on the system, you're really missing out on what made the system so good. And the third-party support in this presentation, I thought was really quite good, especially for early on.
Hopefully it sticks around.
Hopefully it does stick around. I'm sure it will do if the system's
because that's
successful.
kind of the curse with Nintendo. They get strong third-party support at first, but then everybody dips out. Just look at the Wii U.
And the Wii U was horrendous. Yeah. But the thing is, I think, like, as customers, we've already been sold on the concept of Switch, before, and I think that devs, they were sold the concept on how successful it's been. So I'm not surprised that they even got a exclusive From Software game in the Duskbloods. Which is absolutely huge, and it's that's just something where it's like the devs obviously have confidence that this thing's going to sell. So
I just hope I hope it still sells, considering what,
the big elephant in the room, which we'll discuss in a minute. Yeah,
in a minute, we still got a ways to go.
Well, just in terms of like third-party support, for me, it was Cyberpunk, Final Fantasy VII. I'm really excited for. Although I'm not gonna lie, I think Square Enix they are one of the companies who will cheap out on the carts. So I imagine that's going to require a download, which will be a massive buzzkill.
I don't know. I really don't know. But I'm glad to see it. I'm glad to see the game on Switch too.
Yeah.
Hopefully they'll actually support it more.
Well, after this little scissor reel of this first batch of third-party games, we got the... was this where they started talking about the different types of games on Switch 2? You can play Switch 2 games, you can play Switch games, and then you can play Switch 2 Edition games, which is essentially Switch 1 games, but a Switch 2 version.
Yeah, that's right. So if you already own the Switch version, you can, if it's like enhanced for Switch 2, you can buy an upgrade pack.
Mm-hmm.
And if not, you can just buy the game.
Well, as of recording this, I don't think we know how much that will be yet.
We do. Well, kind of.
I think it's rumored.
The upgrade packs, going off of like conversion rates based on the Japanese yen, is going to be around the £10-15 mark, which I think is a very good price.
Yeah, I think the reason why people are getting a bit uppity about it is the fact that PlayStation and Xbox actually had upgrades for free for a lot of their games, which I think that Nintendo has sort of done. If you are an NSO member, then you do get Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom upgrades for free.
Yeah, and not only that, but some of these upgrade packs add new content to the game, like with Kirby and the Forgotten Land.
It's like deluxe versions, really. Like Kirby and the Forgotten Land was the big one. The only thing for me is, I guess it leads on to sort of the price thing that we're going to talk about later, but just in terms of that Nintendo Switch edition, Switch 2 editions, as a physical collector, it hit me with the realization that, the physical versions that I have for a lot of the games are now not the definitive one. And I was like, okay, maybe I'll just sell those and then rebuy the Switch 2 editions, for Switch 2. But just seeing how expensive some of those Switch 2 editions are, it's like, it doesn't seem that worth it, to be completely honest. But I'm glad they're doing it. It was one of my biggest things that I wanted for the Switch 2, was to be able to play Switch games in a better way. I won't get all the upgrade packs, but for games like Kirby, I absolutely would, because one of my biggest pet peeves of that game was the fact that it didn't run at 60. So the fact that it can run at 60 and get new content for an already amazing game is, I think, pretty good.
Pretty hilarious that emulators could do 60 FPS. It's almost like Nintendo's trying to compete with the pirates, which I actually think is what they're doing.
Well, what did they say in the Ask Developer interview, SPO? Because me and you were talking about this last night, where I think they mentioned that it's not like emulation; it's kind of like an in-between of how they got Switch games running.
So you could emulate in the sense that you could just run a small little version of the console inside of the memory. That's what PCs do for the simplest consoles. But what most complex games do and complex systems, and this is going to be the case for the Switch and Switch 2, is that when the game like tries to tell the CPU, hey, run instruction, I don't know, sum two numbers, something in the middle is going to very, very quickly, in real time, translate that into the equivalent instruction for the Switch 2. So it's not like doing any middle management. It's not like doing a small emulation. It really just is trying to pipe the instructions from Switch 1 mode to Switch 2 mode as quickly as it can.
Like on the fly, yeah.
Yeah. It's even called just-in-time compilation, because it really is just on the fly. Not compilation, well, something of all sorts. Yeah. And it seems like the best solution, really, because having like the previous consoles, the way they did it was they pretty much had the hardware for the previous console inside of them, and yeah, that's not really going to happen with the Switch 2.
I think they mentioned that in the interview that they used like they used the DS and the 3DS as an example, where like the 3DS just essentially has a DS inside of it. And I think they said that with the Switch, the Switch 2, sorry, they did rebuild the console from the ground up so that it's not as simple as just putting a Switch 1 in the Switch 2. And I think if they did that, they wouldn't be able to actually give you the upgrades like they have.
I guess it could be because if you think about, for instance, the DS and the 3DS, if you're playing a DS game, the console pretty much has to go into DS mode, so you don't have the home menu. You can't take
like the Wii and Wii U
browser. Yeah, that too as well. Yeah. So it wouldn't be nice to be like, hey, you can play Switch games, but you know all those cool features with the actual dedicated button for the cool features. Well, too bad.
Well, one thing I will say is, even without the upgrade packs, being able to play those games on a bigger screen on the handheld will be like amazing.
Absolutely.
So like something I sort of like, because with the upgrade thing, it was one of those where it's like, oh no, this like really doesn't speak well to my physical collector preservation side. But then I also thought, like, at the end of the day, you can still play the games on the console. You just might not, play them in like an upgraded format. Which I think for some games like Kirby, you're missing out on content. But for like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, for example, you're not missing out on content really. You're just missing out on like a smoother experience.
Because of the prices and all of this, Switch 1 game, Switch 2 game, Switch 1 Edition 2 game for the Deluxe 3 remastered and all that good stuff, I think it's best for gamers to start getting comfortable with the idea of games as... How do I put this without sounding pretentious or without sounding like a completely
Are you Ubisofting? Are you about to tell me to get comfortable about owning my games?
That's all what I mean.
We need to get used to not owning our games.
Yeah.
Although that is very important. We have to get used to being
fuck off.
Little
we have to get used to being chumps.
No, we gotta get used to just trying to find what we feel about the games. Like, do I like a game because it's this specific software? Do I like this game because it's a creation of this company? Do I like this game because of the experiences it brought?
You don't just have to pick it up because it's like the definitive version. You can be content with like the lesser version as long as it still works.
That's it. Like, it doesn't make sense. Oh, well, I already own this game, but I'm like gonna buy it again because it changes one pixel. Like, maybe for you that's what's good, but maybe it isn't. You just really have to think about it instead of just blindly following whatever the latest release is.
Your purchase basically needs to feel justified, is what you're saying.
Yes.
I think that Kirby, for me, is justified with the new content and the frame rate upgrade. Frame rate upgrade, sorry. But the rest of them, I'm not too fussed about. But for example, for new Switch games like Metro Prime 4 and Pokemon Legends, I'll just be buying the Switch 2 edition of those, even though the box art looks fucking putrid.
Yeah.
But
I think it's not worth missing out on the good stuff. Like, you could have just right off the bat purchased the better version, and you wouldn't. That seems a bit weird. Unless you're really scraping for money, in which case, yeah, it's fine.
I've ever watched Metro Prime 4, I just couldn't play that in anything less than like 60 FPS, and like that game, I mean, remastered already looks amazing on Switch, so I don't want to miss out on how good it's going to look on Switch 2.
Yeah, exactly. So speaking of things looking really good on the Switch 2 and the Switch 2 edition and whatnot, this got me thinking. So we can either have 120 FPS or 4K. Because of the math, that more or less amounts to the same amount of pixels per second. So it makes sense that the two are equivalent. But it gets me wondering about a couple of things, because we know that getting 4K resolution even nowadays isn't all that easy. You need kind of a really beefy machine, and I really don't think the Switch is up for it. But what we do know is that the Switch does use some sort of AI for upscaling, which for some people it might be like a reason to cry out to the moon that this isn't real 4K and Nintendo is the worst company on earth. For other people, it could just be
4K.
Cool. Yeah, it's 4K, cool. But that gets me thinking. What about the 120 FPS? Is that legitimate too, or is that going to be some AI interpolation?
Well, in terms of like the 120 FPS, because at first when they revealed it was going to be like a quality mode and performance mode, I thought like, oh, okay, so this is going to be like across the board. It doesn't. It sounds like it's just going to be for that particular game. But I think I would actually, if it's going to be 60 FPS and 4K, I think I'd pick that over the 120. I don't really feel like I need that.
Same here, yeah.
I also don't feel like I need it. Like there are a couple of titles I did play on my machine, on my PC, that the higher frame rate does look spectacular, but for the most part,
I don't even know what 120 FPS looks like. If I saw it for the first time with my own eyes, it would probably give me an aneurysm.
It would actually. The first time I moved my mouse on this new computer, I saw the mouse moving so smoothly. It's like weird. It's like an alien shows up to you and be like, "What? You guys can't experience Flugempum?"
Yeah,
everybody experiences Flugempum. What is?
I imagine it's similar to when
sounds like a Harry Potter spell.
Well, speaking of, do you remember when The Hobbit came out and the first screenings were in like a enhanced frame rate and people like found it really weird? I reckon it's gonna be something like that.
It might well be. Yeah, a lot of gamers are gonna see what it's like to see more than 60 FPS. It's gonna be a bit magical. Well, again, if you have,
I don't want to be one of those people who's like, oh, I don't see frame rate, but I definitely do. But I know my friend was playing on PC. He was playing Risk of Rain 2. And it was like 240 FPS, and I was like, I honestly can tell you now, I cannot see the difference between this and 60.
Yeah. Especially if his monitor doesn't support 240 FPS. But yeah,
it's got a decent setup, so I think it would have done, but I couldn't tell.
Yeah, but the thing is, if it does support 120 FPS, yeah, like I said, if 4K is done by AI upscaling, then that means the console is not powerful enough to do the required amount of pixels per second. It's also not good enough for 120 FPS. It is going to have to use AI. And if so, I think the biggest advantage that people want out of 120 FPS, which is bigger reaction times, isn't going to exist.
Yeah.
Because frames you're going to get in between aren't real. Like the game is going to have to finish rendering like the 60 FPS frame in order to then like tell the graphics card, hey, now you can do the previous frame and like the frame in between.
Yeah.
Now like you can do like the 120.
It just kind of remind me. Yeah, it just kind of remind me of what the Ship of Harkinian does. That's the Ocarina of Time PC port. You can buff the frame rate up if you want. You can go up to like 300, I think, but the game logic is still at the native 20 frames per second of the original game.
Yeah, those two things, what I said and what you said, are pretty closely tied. So I hope a lot of gamers aren't like, oh boy, 120 FPS. Now I'll actually have a competitive advantage while playing online. Like, no, brother. No, you won't. You won't even have a competitive advantage playing a single player. Because like it's not going to be a real 120 FPS. It's just going to look funny.
It's all a trick.
Yeah, it is.
I think just on Ocarina of Time, Ocarina of Time 3D runs at 60, right?
No, it's 30.
Is it? Okay, maybe it's just because like the original frame rate is so bad then. Because I remember when I was playing Ocarina of Time 3D and I was like, this is so smooth. I thought it was 60.
Untrained eye.
Untrained eye. But yeah, I was going to say that, I don't really notice the difference in anything above 60 at the moment. I mean, it could be like when I first saw Blu-ray and thought, this looks exactly like DVD. And then years later, I was like, this is not like DVD. But yeah, right now, I just need 60. But it is nice that we do, like, it's 120 is capable. And I think that's almost kind of future-proofing the system a little bit.
That is true, yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be one of those things when people finally do get the console, depending on the hardware they do have, like monitors and whatnot, and the settings they do like, a lot of people are going to discover a lot of new things.
Yeah.
About the experience. So can't wait for that.
Well, I think next up they showed, it was the new Hyrule Warriors game, I think, which at first I thought this was going to be, I knew it was going to be Hyrule Warriors because they did the same thing with a prequel to Breath of the Wild, with Age of Calamity, which I think is quite a great game, to be honest. It's just that the story was a bit disappointing.
Wait, which one? Do you like Breath of the Wild or Age of Calamity?
Age of Calamity.
Okay.
Yeah, I did really enjoy Age of Calamity. I just think that I think the story is a bit like it's a bit non-canon, and it's like, oh, okay, I mean, you could have done the actual.
Even though they're trying their hardest to say no, this is actually legitimately canon. Like,
yeah, if I'm being honest, I can see them doing the same thing with this game, but the gameplay was really good.
I think they said already. They said already
sorry?
it is going to be canon. I think they already said that it is going to be canon. This really is going to be.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, because when they showed I think they kind of teased people a little bit, because one of the first bits they shown was just Zelda walking around in a forest. And it was like, oh my god, are we actually going to be able to properly play like this is an adventure game? And then at one point it just shows you it's like, oh, it's a Warriors game, and you're like, that could have been pretty cool, to be fair, because that's the most interesting bit of Tears of the Kingdom story is like what happened in the past. So,
I think as long as the gameplay is good, because like I played Three Hopes, the Fire Emblem Warriors. That was my first Warriors, and I was like, all right, I'm just hooked on this franchise, on the Warriors franchise. It is a bit of an unfair case for Three Hopes because the story is good and it's even better than Three Houses, but it's really the gameplay. You really just want to go in and wreck a million mobs.
Isn't Three Hopes like an actual sequel to Three Houses, though?
No, it's a bit of an alternate universe. Like instead of the big war happening between everyone, it's like a smaller war, and
it's a bit like Persona 5 did. I think it's Persona 5 Strikers, and that is a canon. From what I understand, it's the canon sequel to Persona 5, which is pretty interesting, to be fair. So this is going to be a canon prequel to Tears of the Kingdom. I think that would be pretty interesting, because like you, I played the first Hyrule Warriors and I liked it, but I remember people saying that, oh, it feels like a love letter to Zelda, and I was like, I don't feel that way at all, to be honest. It feels very un-Zelda-like, just in terms of the character designs, and especially the music.
You mean proper Hyrule Warriors, right? Not Age of Calamity.
Not Age of Calamity, no. But when I played Age of Calamity, I thought the art style was spot on. Like, it felt like, this is something that could happen in Breath of the Wild's world. So
that's also the thing about Three Hopes. It's that even the UI and stuff like that is so Fire Emblem centric that if you don't really concentrate on the fact that you are playing a beat 'em up or whatever the genre is, it really just feels like this is actually just continuing Three Houses. Like I didn't stop playing this game.
The visual style also goes so far.
Yeah, that gets me excited for different kinds of Warriors games. So even though I think, the Age of Imprisonment one, it might be fun and whatnot, I really just hope Koei Tecmo just decided, hey, let's do Warriors and other stuff.
Yeah.
Can we do Warriors Pikmin? It's right there.
So Warriors.
Yeah, they should do a really wacky one that's like kind of left field.
So literally just Pikmin Warriors then.
Yeah.
Or even Mario Warriors would, I think, be pretty funny.
Yeah.
That's not happening.
Kirby Warriors or something. But we speaking of, we did get an announcement for Kirby. We got Kirby Air Riders.
I did. Holy shit! I was not expecting that.
Well, at first I thought it was Smash Brothers. I'm not gonna lie, because it was
yes.
I knew it was a new Kirby game, but as soon as it zooms in on the back of the Warp Star and those jets come out, I instantly knew what it was, and I was like, "Oh my god!"
I think the fact that they state, because did Sakurai made the original game, right?
Yes, it was actually the very last Kirby game he made before he left HAL to form his own studio. So he's back for the sequel. This is the first Kirby game he's worked on in over 20 years.
His baby.
Yeah.
And it's not Smash Brothers.
Yeah. And we did learn from his YouTube channel, that he did really learn a lot. This guy knows what he's doing. I have never played the original. I might play this one, but I know it's going to be interesting.
You did play it with me a few
years
ago.
I didn't really play it.
It's like fully experienced.
You got a taste of it.
The controls were too complex for me.
SPO. Do you know that Kirby Air Ride's big selling point is its quote-unquote ultra-simple controls? You just use the A button for everything. How's that complicated?
That's hard for SPO.
Yeah. I need 30 buttons on my controller, otherwise it's complicated.
He's a programmer. He's looking for the other 10 million steps before he has to press the A button.
Exactly.
Oh my god.
But it It looks cool. What was it? What was the other? There was another. Was there another first party announcement? I think that might have been it. Apart from like the end one, which was obviously amazing.
Well, hang on. I mean, we could also talk about the previous direct. This PHATcast is a bit for both.
With the Switch One.
SPO just wants to.
Of course I do. Come on.
Rhythm Heaven. Are you talking about Rhythm Heaven?
Yes. God damn it.
I predicted Rhythm Heaven on the Switch, and well, lo and behold, look, we got 2 WarioWare games on Switch. Rhythm Heaven was inevitable.
I guess so. I don't know.
Well, it's funny because
Rhythm Heaven is one of those franchises Nintendo doesn't want to care about because it's music. Not everybody has rhythm. So if some people aren't going to enjoy it, that means it's bad.
Because they made Wii Music and no one liked it, that no one likes rhythm games.
Maybe.
I don't know what it is. Rhythm Heaven's not unpopular.
No. I see a lot of people like enthusiasts for it. So
yeah.
I love like those fan remakes or fan animations based on Rhythm Heaven. They get millions of views sometimes, so it's not that unpopular. It's not even that
niche. But
Nintendo
likes to treat it like it is. I mean, they launched Mega Mix and
they don't market it. They don't market the series. That's the issue, especially after the DS game. They actually did market the DS game quite well, but then after that, they just kind of didn't care.
Well, even with this one,
no representation in Smash or anything. Boo.
The only reason I knew that this one was Rhythm Heaven is because it showed like the real life person with the Joy-Con, and I was like, no game does that apart from a Nintendo game, so it's got to be Rhythm Heaven.
I knew the second I saw that little girl sprite. I was like, well, I didn't know for sure, but the second her dialogue box finished and you heard the confirming, I was like screaming into the keyboard.
Yeah, even I was like, oh. What
do you think about the release date though? Because it's quite far away.
Yeah, it scared me a bit. Like a legit jump scare. Like, what do you mean 2026? That's not a year that exists. Like, it's a Switch 1 game. There's no Switch 1 in 2026. What are you doing?
Yeah, I reckon it might literally be because this year's kind of packed.
It might.
Will it be Switch 1 exclusive though? It probably will be because it's not exactly technically demanding, is it? There's no reason for it to be on Switch 2 as well.
Yeah.
Not just that, but it did play on the Switch 1 direct, so I mean,
and they never specified that it would be on Switch 2, like at any point.
Yeah. Maybe the extra development time is so that they actually translate the lyrics on these sung songs. They did that for Fever, and they didn't do that for Mega Mix, and everybody cried. It's all in Japanese or instrumental. But yeah, what other games do we want to talk about in the first direct? That way we can wrap that one up and let's go. Oh yeah,
I never would have guessed a new Tamagotchi Life.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
I've seen some people saying, "Oh wow, Tamagotchi Life's getting a sequel." You're kind of wrong there. This is the 3rd game in the series.
We didn't get the first one, right?
So the 3DS Tamagotchi Life is actually the 2nd one. The very first Tamagotchi game was only released in Japan on the DS. It's called Tamagotchi Collection. And it still uses Mii's. Believe it or not, but some DS games actually did use Mii's. You actually connected the DS to the Wii to transfer your Mii's over to whatever DS games used Mii's.
Only after the Wii came out, though.
There was the Walk With Me game, for example. That used Mii's.
Might not be Mii Maker on the new Switch though. No confirmation yet.
Maybe there is, and it's just hidden in the menus.
There will be. Think about the backwards compatibility for one thing. Mii's have to be incorporated into Switch 2. I really do like how the ending shot, the ending scene of the Tamagotchi Life trailer became like one of those redrawn memes. You know, the giant woman coming forward saying, "Oh yeah, do you want to talk?" I've seen some real gems spawn from that. Like the giant, what's her name, Ayla from Mega Man X. X, can you hear me? Bloody, 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 blah.
So let's flip it back to Switch 2 a minute. Just for like the second sizzle reel that we got, which was really funny because I think the funniest thing was the fact that Silksong popped up for like 2 seconds.
That was popping off.
God, it was so funny.
Popping off when Silksong came up. Also, Deltarune. Deltarune's not dead.
Deltarune was a massive one because I believe it was only chapters 1 and 2 that were out.
Yeah, Toby Fox has been teasing Chapter 3 and 4 for quite a while, and it turns out, they're coming to the Switch too.
Is that all of the game now then, or is there still more chapters?
He says it's gonna be 7 chapters long.
Right, okay.
That Toby is a funny one, isn't? Yeah, that's him in the annoying dog costume, by the way. Apparently.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, Toby Fox.
I know he's quite chummy with like Nintendo, so.
Yeah, Toby Fox doesn't really like to show himself like on camera anymore. Now that he's become super popular, like he prefers to be reclusive.
Makes sense. Oh, so another game that they announced on the first Direct, Patapon. I have been meaning to play it. So
Patapon Digivolve 2.
No, not quite. It is
and
weird. That it's just been stuck in Sony hell for ages, and all of a sudden they just decided, all right, you're free now. Go to Nintendo.
Sony isn't publishing it though, right? Like, I know it was exclusive to the Vita.
The Vita and the PSP, one or the other, or both.
Who published it?
Don't know, but it really is just weird. Like nobody was expecting Patapon, really. It just drops, and Sony has just been acting so weird these past few years.
I don't know what to think of Sony right now. They're saying the PS5 is like a flop. It sold over 75 million units in its first few years. How's that a flop?
But it has no games.
It has no games. Its best-selling game is a freaking Spider-Man game.
Well, the thing is that if you... I haven't seen games sales figures for PS5, but PlayStation, most gaming companies, they sell consoles at a loss, and then they sell the games for profit. If games aren't selling, then they're not making profit. Because I remember with the PS2, people would think that sold 150 mil, it's fantastic, but at least at the start, Sony was really struggling because people were buying it for DVDs, which they weren't profiting off. So it's only games that make the money.
Yeah, I just looked up the best-selling PS5 games, and it is dismal. Number 1 is Spider-Man 2 with 11 million copies. Not bad, but then you go down to the second best-selling video game on the PS5. It's Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart with just below 4 million. Bit of a distance here, isn't it?
That is a huge distance, yeah.
And then you've got Elden Ring with 3.6. You got Final Fantasy 16 with only 3 million. Yeah,
you got to remember as well.
This is not good.
You got to remember as well that those third-party games, I think Sony take a 30% cut, so they don't even get full profit from it.
I would really like to know. I would really like to ask all those 75 million people that bought PS5 why. There's nothing to play on it.
It's funny actually because someone said like, "Oh, the Switch 2 isn't even out yet, and it's got more games than the PS5."
Does this mean we'll get a Ratchet & Clank on Switch on Nintendo systems?
I doubt it. It's some New York is like very chummy with Sony, but I mean,
I think it's owned by Sony.
They are now, yeah. But you know what? They're bringing their stuff to PC, so it could come. Maybe it could come to Switch if they get desperate enough. But
at least they have PC to fall back on for now. But I can't tell what Sony's doing. I don't know what the hell Sony's doing. The PS5 Pro just made it even more confusing.
Well, this is kind of where we could get into the price. I guess we could just quickly talk about Donkey Kong, and I say quickly, but I mean, come on, that game looks absolutely incredible.
It has real Super Mario Odyssey vibes to it, mainly like how it looks, like how the characters like animated. It's probably done by the same team.
People have theorized that it has been done by the same team. So,
wasn't Mario Odyssey made by the Mario Galaxy team?
I'm not sure. Was it R&D 2? I'm pretty sure.
Because the Mario Galaxy devs also made Donkey Kong Jungle Beat on the GameCube. It's about time we had a 3D Donkey Kong game, though. And yeah, it looks glorious. And it's coming out in July, so only a month into the Switch 2's lifespan.
Quick! I remember. Not only did we get DK, but we also got Nintendo GameCube on NSO.
Okay, that is big. Big.
Yeah.
So F-Zero GX is going to be one of the first games on there. That's why I have hope for a new F-Zero game. We probably won't get an F-Zero GX remake anymore, but the fact that F-Zero GX is going to be one of the first games on GameCube NSO, that gives me hope. Also, F-Zero GX is still a freaking awesome game. It has held up very well. That's why I asked SBO yesterday, hey SBO, are you actually going to think about buying the NSL expansion pack just for GameCube games? Because you are going to find some real good games that you probably missed out on, like F-Zero GX and Fire Emblem Path of Radiance.
Luigi's Mansion.
I think my first thing was my first reaction was, oh no, because they said that Pokemon Colosseum and XD is coming, and I was like, oh no, my £300 game is not going to cost that anymore.
Look, that's one of the biggest problems with the GameCube now, is collecting for it is so expensive now. It's not quite N64 levels, but it will get there, because more and more people are looking back to the GameCube and saying, actually, you know what? I was wrong about the system. It's awesome. It's basically in a similar boat to like the Sega Saturn and the Dreamcast. But yeah, its games are getting way too high. So I actually think the GameCube NSO is a very big deal, because not everybody's going to splurge several £100s on one video game.
Yeah. Well,
they're going to be more readily available, which is great.
So you could be a Switch 2 owner.
They've already confirmed Path of Radiance with SBO. Please play Path of Radiance if you decide to get GameCube NSO. You might like it. It is very beginner friendly, even though that probably won't matter to you. It has a decent story. It does.
I think my biggest thing I said to SPO last night is I wish that they would just let us buy the game and download it on your system instead of having to go through NSO. Like SPO said last night, I don't think they'll do that, but it's a hope of mine that they'll give you the option in the future.
I'm at least glad they're actually making the expansion pack more, desirable. That's what I wanted them to do.
Yeah, it's not like I don't believe that's going to happen. It's more like Biden was right on by posting a gif of some guy laughing his ass off.
Yeah.
That's actually the real answer.
Yeah. Also, Chibi Robo. Chibi Robo is also like a big, very expensive game that they confirmed. And of course, Pokemon Colosseum, Pokemon XD. Do you think they'll re-release Cubivore? Because Cubivore is a £400 plus game.
I think with the way that they've been going with like putting weird games from like the Game Boy Advance and like N64 and stuff on there, I could see him doing it.
True.
Look, the GameCube just has a lot of like niche cult favorite games like Cubivore and Doshin the Giant and Baten Kaitos. They really need to reach a wider audience, those kind of games. Because one of the reasons why I love the GameCube as much as I do is because that was when Nintendo was not afraid to go like weird and experimental. A lot of Nintendo's GameCube games actually held up very well. And
I do think that
a lot of like oddities on that game that you just can't help but be like attracted to it.
We did get shades of that in the Switch generation, though, I'd say.
Yeah, I guess. Also, Mario Party 4 to 7 will finally get re-releases of the GameCube Mario Party games.
Online
That's
too.
Going to be great.
Yeah.
To be fair, I might like pick up NSO and the expansion pack because like playing some of those games online would be really cool. But it's also nice knowing I do have a physical copy anyway. And I don't think how much is the expansion pack a year again?
It's like £35 for individual people, something along those lines.
Yeah, and the family plan makes that really cheap, doesn't it? So
a lot more.
Do you think you'll get the wireless GameCube controller? It's going to be £60, by the way.
The reason why I said no is because I like the fact that my the GameCube controllers they released for Smash, for example, you can use on the Switch, but you can also use them on a GameCube. The fact that you'll only be able to use this on a Switch kind of turns me off from it.
No.
Do we actually know if the GameCube controller adapter will work on Switch too?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, they've released a compatible accessories list, and it is compatible.
Okay, that's good. I'm gonna. I don't want to be a downer, but I think it's going to be very unlikely we'll see a re-release of Smash Bros. Melee on GameCube NSO. I think they're going to just pass over Melee. Nintendo seems to, have a grudge against that game.
Yep.
Did they release Smash 64 on the N64 NSO?
Nope, they haven't done it yet.
Okay, I agree with you then. Because if they'd already released Smash 64, I'd be like, well, why wouldn't they do Melee? But if they haven't done 64, then yeah, I agree. I don't think they'll do Melee either.
I don't think they have a problem with Smash 64. It's Melee. Nintendo wants nothing to do with Melee. They don't want anything to do with the game. They especially don't want anything to do with the competitive scene. So they just want to bury it.
I don't think they think about that when they make these decisions. That's the reason why I said if they've done 64 on the Virtual Console before, but they've never done Melee. But obviously, if they did 64, they'd have to give it online. And I don't know, maybe they just can't make it work properly.
We'll just have to wait and see.
So, but yeah, so that was pretty much the direct. I mean, I know we glazed over Donkey Kong quite a bit. I know Gavin said how amazing it looks. I think it looks amazing. I just want to quickly say that it really gives me like Rare vibes. Like everything's got eyes, and like when you walk past this question mark, it like pops up and its eyes open, and it's like
in fact, when the trailer was going around, and the first real thing you see, or the real thing that pops into your vision, is that like blue crystal with eyes.
Yeah.
The second that happened, I was like, Banjo?
Yeah, I saw other people say that. It feels like very Banjo-Kazooie, kind of. Which must have like tickled your bone, Gavin.
No, I thought it looked like ukulele at first.
Oh,
yeah, that too.
Okay, yeah.
I thought it was ukulele replay or whatever they call it the remake of ukulele. Which, by the way, that will never Switch too. Definitely.
Yeah, I never was really married too much with the idea of Donkey Kong Country. I was like, all right, that seems cool for the people who like it. But as the trailer went on and on, every single like neuron that is responsible for thinking quickly and gradually got replaced with fuck everything up. You grab things and you fuck up other things, and then you grab those things and you fuck up the other things. And at some point, by the end, I was just like, I need this.
Yeah, it looks so fun. It kind of reminds me of
Catharsis, the video game.
Just with how you interact with the world and how like smooth it looks, it really did remind me of Astrobot because of like the different physics and just how smooth things are. No, it's not as smooth as Astrobot, but it reminded me of that.
Remember that one game of the year, despite only selling 1 million copies?
It's not about sales; it's about quality.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so, but
and games don't sell on PS5.
Hype around the game.
How the fuck? How is it's like a PS5 flagship game and it only sold 1 million? I've got to look into this after we finish this cast because I did not realise that games sold that badly on PS5.
I don't know, lack of marketing. There's many reasons, probably.
Maybe
it could be any reason.
So that's kind of the direct. Let's just talk about the bad stuff that came afterwards. And of course, the biggest thing is the price. SBO, you have been fucked over the most here, out of everyone in the world, it seems. So why don't you just give us your experience on the pricing for the Switch 2 and the games? I think that the main issue is how expensive the games are.
Nah, I think America got it way worse than Europe.
You think?
Look, America's the one with the tariffs.
But this is what I mean. Like they've said that, like, the tariffs is why it's so expensive. But it's like
that's why it's expensive in America, especially.
Yeah, but like it's just as expensive, if not more expensive, in Europe, and we don't have those tariffs that Trump's imposed, right?
Yeah.
So it has I don't think it has anything to do with the tariffs.
It's complicated. It's like I told you guys.
There's lots of reasons. There's things like here's the thing: video games are getting more and more expensive to develop. That I cannot understate.
Yeah.
Somehow Nintendo's been able to keep their games cheap for so long. You look back at the days of the Super Nintendo and the N64. Some games on those systems cost like £60 a piece, sometimes even 70 in 1990s money.
Yeah.
So now
I did think that.
So now you jump to present day. Most Switch games are £50, which I think is reasonable. But now they have skyrocketed to around the £70 mark. That's
75 physical.
That's just inflation catching up.
I think that my problem is that their system is still not as powerful as PS5, and their games are being priced.
Was going to be.
No, but their games are being priced like it is, or even more. And I know that Nintendo have been weird with their pricing because they've been like, oh yeah, Tears of the Kingdom. I mean, over in the UK, it was just as much as Breath of the Wild. I'm pretty sure they were both £60. But in America, it was like, oh, they're going to be more than the standard. I don't know why that is the case, especially when you've got like Mario vs. Donkey Kong, which sold for £50. Was it 50 or was it 40?
It was 40. It was a budget title.
Okay, it was counted. But then what was the game that sold for 50 that was like ridiculous and everyone was like, why is it sold for 50? There's been a few.
Pretty much every other Switch remake.
Yeah. Was the Thousand Year Door
Luigi's... Yeah, it was. But also, Luigi's Mansion 2 HD was 50.
Yeah.
The Link's Awakening remake was 50, even though I think that's a bit more justified because they are like actually remaking the entire game from scratch, new art style, etc., etc.
Yeah. But the thing is, like I think the main issue here is not even the fact that it's like 75 quid or how much is it in Portugal, SPO?
90 euros.
90 euro.
90 euros. So but digital is cheaper, and that is the first time that they have like actually made one cheaper than the other. And if anything, it should probably be. Well, no, it makes sense that physical is more expensive because it costs more to make and what have you. But it doesn't make sense in terms of like they are undercutting their retailing partners now, which is I don't know because my girlfriend made a good point where she said like, oh, maybe it's because I was saying how at least in the UK retailers will undercut the recommended retail price. So if a game comes out for 50, for example, most likely we'll get it for about like 42 pounds maybe. So maybe because Nintendo's seen that, they've like put the physical up higher so that when the retailers undercut it, it'll come down to around like the same amount of price that the digital would be anyway. And I said that's good thinking, but I also think like that's very scummy if they've done that. So I just feel pushed towards the digital stuff. When for Nintendo, that's never felt like they've done that. It always felt like they did prize the physical stuff as well.
It's probably because they might have lost money on physical sales. I don't know. It could also just be. It could also just because of like the technology is just more expensive.
I do
because
think
they
it could
did
be
say
something to
right
do with
there
like
in the direct. They did say right there in the direct that the Switch 2 game cartridges have faster read times, which could up the price as well.
Apparently, people will say this is hearsay, so take it with a grain of salt. But apparently, people have said that the tech in the new game carts are essentially like an SSD that the PS5 has because it loads things that fast. So I understand that. I guess like no matter how you slice it, for Mario Kart, Mario Kart looks amazing. It does look amazing, but £75 for one game is. That's kind of like FIFA Gold Edition that stupid people buy. It's not Mario Kart.
Yeah.
So it's tough.
Yeah, it kind of goes with what I was saying yesterday or something. But for Portugal specifically, this is, or I guess not specifically, but for Europe, it is pretty rough.
Isn't the euro like in a bad state though? Like the currency?
It's certainly better than the dollar because
and the
collapsing
yen.
country.
Well, this is the thing I was going to say because the yen. I mean, who was it yesterday? Someone in our chat yesterday was like, "Oh, it's a xenophobic switch." It's like, no, I think like it's so the yen is ridiculously weak. And from what I understand, I've got a friend in Japan. The wages aren't like fantastic either because the currency is so weak. So Nintendo has actually made it so you can get a Japanese only Switch, and I think that costs around like conversion wise, it's about £250, but it makes it easier for Japanese people to get the Switch 2 without the foreigners coming over with their stronger currency and farming them. And I agree with that. I agree with that. Like it makes it easier for Japanese people to get the Switch.
Yeah, it's one of those hard truths, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I don't think overall. I don't think that the system itself. I don't think that is too badly priced. It's just the games.
Yeah, I honestly think the Switch 2 is reasonably priced. After all, again, look to the past. Remember the 3DO that launched at $700 in 1993 money? That's over $1,000 in today's money.
I mean, I saw someone put like, oh, the fact that Nintendo have tried selling this or what have you just makes it even more absurd that in 2006 Sony tried to sell the PS3 for $600.
Yeah, never forget the PS3's initial price tag, and also more recently, look at the Xbox One that launched at $500.
Yeah.
In 2013 money.
Yeah. Well, so we've got the pricing out of the way. What was the only other thing I think was like the discussion around the physical game cards, which I think has sort of been debunked now because it was a bit scary at first. It was like, oh, you're just going to get a game card that lets you download stuff. So it's not that. It's just a way of saying internet download required, which is perfectly. I don't mind that at all. There's some games that have been announced for Switch that have that, but it seems to be like Bravely Default and Street Fighter 6, I think, because third parties are going to cheap out on on the carts. So
like they did with the Switch one.
Like they did with the Switch one. Like I was quite excited to see Hogwarts Legacy come because I was like, oh, I'm actually picking up this time. But they're definitely Warner Brothers are definitely not going to put it all on the cart. So. But yeah, I guess we'll leave it there. Is there any final thoughts from you both? Let's start off with Espio.
Just more or less what I wanted to say earlier with the prices for Portugal. A game costing €90 means it's 1/10 of the minimum wage.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I mean, and especially in Portugal, like we are very cheap people. We do not like to spend a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
As much as we can, we try to save money. Well, yeah, you know me. So I think business in Portugal might be a bit weird. And I don't feel like Portugal is going to be an exclusive case, considering, the prices are still bad worldwide. I feel like this is going to be one of those cases where Nintendo put it a bit too high at first, and they are going to turn it down a bit.
I hope so.
I hope so.
If world economics improve, maybe.
Yeah, it's also that.
The only thing that makes me think they won't do that is the fact that I think was it this generation that the PS5 and Xbox for the first time ever they had a price increase.
Yes.
That. So the only thing that makes me feel like Nintendo probably would have thought like, no, this is the price we're going to stick at. Like we can't go any lower than this. At least for the console. I think for the games it might maybe be better, but yeah. How are you thinking, Gavin, after everything, after the dust has settled a little bit?
I'm definitely going to have to just persevere. Mm-hmm. But I'm still very excited for the Switch 2. For what I know is coming out and for the potential. I think the Switch 2 is going to be massive.
Yeah.
Also Metroid Prime 4. Metroid Prime 4, I just wish that game would come out already. I have been waiting far too long. This game had better be a damn masterpiece. It's my most anticipated game at the moment.
It feels like one of those games that'll age like wine. So if you wait just a bit more, it'll pay.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it gets better with age.
Yeah.
Suddenly I'm kind of glad work is overworking me. It means more money towards the Switch 2 and its games.
Yeah, I thought
People keep calling in sick though. I still don't like that, but hey, more money for me.
Yeah, people are like, oh no, stay off sick, it's fine.
Right. In general, the good parts about the Switch 2, I think we're all very excited about. The negative parts really is just the money, and even that, it still feels like there's a lot of, like I said to you guys yesterday or something, there's still a lot of misinformation and rumors.
Yeah.
People are spreading on Twitch, oh, look at this website said that this strap is going to be $1 million and whoa. But
I definitely can't
still going to settle.
How much it sucks for the UK because our taxes went up, our bills went up.
It sucks for everyone, I think.
I think that's the thing. Everyone's feeling the effects. I think it might still stem from COVID and stuff, but I think overall for me,
I'm not going to get into it because it dives too far into politics. But let's just say, the COVID aftermath definitely plays a part. They're calling it the cost of a living crisis after all. Also, balancing finances and whatnot.
It's tough, but I do feel like after I thought about things, it's like because the direct was so good, it was so deflating afterwards to learn oh, hang on, there is.
It was like the hangover after the party.
Yeah, it really was. And I think as I've been able to sleep off the hangover, I've been like, you know what, that stuff does suck, but it feels like it's just gonna have to be stuff that I have to deal with to experience. This what hopefully will be an amazing machine with amazing games. It most certainly seems it's going to be that way. So
go figure that the internet would blow things way out of proportion.
I can see why, because it is a bit of
a shock, isn't it? Because it did kind of come out of nowhere.
I feel like it's because the direct was so good and everyone was just riding that high, and then it was like, we're going to punch you back down that with information we didn't tell you, and it's like, oh Christ. So, but we'll leave it there, boys. Thanks for joining me today. Very good discussion. I'll try and get this one out very quickly. But thanks for joining me. We'll see you next time.
Peace.
Right. See you, everyone. Bye bye.